Abandonment to me would mean that both parents abandoned you, never came back to see you, never came back to see if you're still alive or to come and take you home. In other words, once they took you somewhere, that was the end of your journey with your parents. Another sound of abandonment would mean is when children lose their parents to war or to death or something like that. That would be another abandonment. But to me, in my perspective, point of view, for me personally, abandonment is someone that doesn't come and see you and just leaves you for the rest of your life without ever coming to see you again. The institution that I grew up with, lived there for 8 years, from 3 years old till I was 11 years old. And our lives had two lives, really, if you think about it. We had one during communism, which was very different. And then the life that we had after communism ended, to where our life began to transform. Now, before communism ended, our lives were much more challenging. Staffs were more short-handed. The simplest thing a child could do that was annoying to the staff, the easiest way to discipline them or to deal with them was to either drug them, beat them, or put them in a straitjacket. Children were put into straitjackets to prevent them from hurting themselves, and children were tied to beds or to pipes to keep them from rocking back and forth, hitting their head against the crib. Now, as far as hands, it's because with their hand is what they use to hit themselves with. Legs, I don't have a solution why children were tied by their legs, because most of them cannot even really run or walk, so that I don't have an explanation. The way the workers dealt with some other children, especially the older ones, wasn't always to abuse them because they enjoyed it. They abused the older ones to maintain a balance, and if they didn't have the upper power of control, then the older ones, the children, would be the ones that would be running the institution instead. So after communism ended, the director hired new staffs, new educators, and this would be the first time that institution would have educators. Little by little, we started doing kindergarten work, how to draw lines and how to keep the lines within pattern, how to draw numbers, and then slowly we started learning how to draw alphabets. It wasn't just about them. The director believed that children needed to be taken outside, to be children who played, and so they started doing that on the orphanage grounds. And in timing, not long after it got reopened, he made the workers and the educators start taking these children out for walks into the public city. They haven't seen the outside of the institution. It's time for them to go. So, first time we were taken out in a group, you know, everywhere we walk, we don't even pay attention to the road, really. Our feet does that, really, for us. And we're just amazed at the beauty, the structure, that there's blocks, there's grocery stores, clothing, all these things that we've never seen before. So right after the Revolutionary War, it was televised worldwide, and the world flew into Romania to cover the execution of Ceausescu. And in Romania, in Bucharest, there was a man who knew about our institution, and somehow he got a hold of 2020 in the middle of filming a protest, is what it was. And he told them, have you seen orphanages here in Romania? Yeah, we visited plenty here in Bucharest. No, you haven't captured anything compared with what I'm about to show you. Somehow he convinced the network to travel from Bucharest to Sighetul Marmației, and they arrived, and somehow they were able to capture and document the institution. And in 1990, they actually aired that on American worldwide television, and the world responded. It was like the Auschwitz concentration camp is what it was like, according to the award-winning producer who did the stories on Romanian orphans. Her name is Janice Tomlin. It's the worst institution she's ever documented in Romania. And based on that, so many Americans saw them. But one particular man who was so captivated by what he saw, 4 days later he packed his bag and left for Romania. What really triggered his mind to travel to Romania was Elena, the girl with the leg above her shoulder. That's what captivated him to travel to Romania. He came, it was the biggest news of the institution. The Americans are here. The director comes and says, make sure that the kids are well dressed, that the place is clean. When John left after visiting, he just kept coming back, day after day coming back. Soon later, we learned that he was here to take children to America. We wanted to go to America. There was this TV show in Romania that just started airing, and it was called Dallas. The beauty, the luxury, everything so green, so fancy. Didn't realize it was a luxury life, really. We thought America really existed that beautiful. So when he arrived to take us to America, everyone wanted to go. There was no holdback on that one. First person that he took to America was a girl named Ana Osta. She was blind from birth, and her parents consented for her to go. The moment he came and announced that she was going to America, every single soul in that place was a dead soul. There was shed of tears, and it was the most silent day in the history of the institution.
Why?
Because everybody wanted to go to America, and to see that everybody was left behind, and she got to go, we were devastated. We all went to the window, and we said goodbye, and stuck our hands out, and we said, take me to America. And then after they left, not even the workers could motivate the kids to do anything. Not even the workers could motivate themselves to do anything. It was like someone we cared and loved for so much had died. We didn't care about Ona Ostash because we really didn't have attachment with other children. So Johnny comes back a couple of months later and says, Izidor, there's an American family that is coming for you and it's coming to visit you. I didn't understand at the time, but I thought, okay, I think I'm going to America. I did comprehend that much. And as time passed, there was two ladies that walked into my section of the floor, Andoi Beb, and it was lunchtime. And when they walked in, they were already crying. Well, the tall one was already. Her name was Marlis. That's who my American mom was going to be. And they took us to a medical office, to the nurse's office, and there we just talked, but my mom was crying non-stop. Kind of made me wonder, why is this woman crying from the moment she walked in to the time she left? I don't think I've ever seen so much crying in my life. And so during that time, I asked someone, who's going to be my mom? And they said, well, which one do you want it to be your mom? Well, which one's going to be my mom? I didn't want to give an answer to be a wrong answer for some reason. I just sensed that who's going to be my mom, that's who I was going to pick. So they said, well, the tall American's going to be your mom. And I said, then that's who I want my mom to be. Oh my gosh, I thought the earth came to a crumble because she just started crying even more than she did before. So we left. And my life was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to America. And at that moment, the workers were crying. My favorite ones were crying. And it made me emotional. They were the ones I was attached to the most. But when they started crying, I started crying. And we all knew the time was coming. So after lunch, we all went back to our normal life. And then 4 or 5 months later, our translator, Anka, walks in with a nurse and other workers and says, Izidor and Ciprian, you're going to America today. And that day we were misbehaving. I mean, we had a bike donated from the Dutch. And for the first time, tricycle is what it was with the 3 wheels. They let us ride around the orphanage building and so on. But some of us got carried away because we enjoyed the ride so much. We didn't even stop. We just kept going and stopped listening. We were taken up for lunch. and we got a beating of our life. I mean, not beating of our life, but we got beat that day because we did not listen, and they wanted to make sure that when they tell us something, we need to listen. It's about maintaining an order of balance. And then our punishment up to lunch was to lay on the school desk with their heads down. And the saddest thing is that the ones that I care for so much are the ones that hit us. They were so affected by it. They were crying. The date I left the institution, I stopped at the entry of the door before I left my floor, and I took a hard look around the building, knowing I was never going to see these people again. When I arrived to America in 1991, everything was fine. Everything was great. I was getting used to. Everything was so new, I was exploring. On the third day, it was my mom's birthday, and she took us all out to lunch. And in Romania, I didn't have to wear a seatbelt when I was in the car. In America, you did. And I just would not put on a seatbelt, you know. And I could not communicate with them. They could not communicate with me. So by the time we got to McDonald's, we couldn't even get out of the car. We had to turn back at home because of my behavior. I threw out my fanny pack, the gum, everything I had in there, except money. I was like, no, I need that. I might need that. But we went home. I fell asleep from the anger from crying. And then we had interpreters come in and explain that if you don't wear a seatbelt, your parents get a ticket. But instead of saying a ticket, your parents will go to jail. And then that scared me. I didn't want that to happen. So from then on, I got along with the seatbelt, never had an issue with that again. I did not understand the rules, the concept, and as time progressed for me living in America, I started becoming angry. Angry because I wasn't used to living in a family environment, number one. Living in an institution environment from the time you can remember was my home, and it is always going to be part of my home, no matter how old I get, you know. In 2001, my dreams came true to return to Romania when I wrote a letter to ABC 2020. And they asked if I still wanted to go to Romania. And I said, well, yeah. So they paid for my expenses. We left March 25th, 2001, landed in Bucharest. The most exciting moment. I mean, I couldn't even recognize someone holding a huge sign that said Izidor. I went right past it and just went out to out the door to see the country already. We came back to the orphanage where I grew up, and it was still open during that time. They set up a show, found out that Carduș and Anita were moved to the Casa de Bătrâni, and we wanted to see them there. And then when my 1 month stay in Romania was over, I went back to the US, and 3 days later I called the network and said, I want to do something to work with an NGO to be able to start raising awareness to help my friends back in Romania. So they put me in touch with an NGO. We started doing a public speaking, and the first one, there was already people at the location before I could even set up. Doing public speaking for the last 20 years has also helped me understand that you have to make the best of the life that you're given as a young adult or as a full-on grown adult to be able to move forward. If you rely on your trauma to fix your problems or to use them as an excuse in life, then you're only living in a structure that will haunt you, is the word I'm trying to use. I didn't have time to look back anymore. I had a full-time job. I was going to a community college. I was getting ready to print out my autobiography, Abandoned for Life. By then, I had no desire to really feel like I deserve something. The country damaged me. The people did this to me. I'm this way because of them. I realized that I did a lot of investigation in the last 30 years, which I'm still doing to this day on the institution. I'm trying to understand the mentalities of why things happened the way they did. So through the investigation, I realized that in many ways I was very fortunate compared to so many other children who were not fortunate. My advice to those who are abandoned and are traumatized by the institutions of what they've endured, you will never be able to forget, and you will never be able to let go. I have tried to let go, but when I let go, I'm always drawn back to it because there are people that care to change the system. So in some way, I'm drawn back to it for the rest of my life, I feel. But my advice to you would be that make the best life as a grown individual with the life that you're given. You can change the world by sharing your story, by creating a system that might benefit others from going through what you went through. The problem that we have with institutionalized is that I am the victim, I'm the one that suffered, you have no idea what I went through or anything about me. Nobody has to know anything about that. You have to make a life of your own. And if you want to succeed, then you have to find a solution to move forward in life. You cannot let the trauma affect you of who you become in life. It's not easy, but there are people that are very resourceful that can be there for you in family, friends that you can trust and communicate with. There are many that have even created families, have married, and have been able to recover well from it. And I think the part that they've created a family out of it, it's helped them to be able to further themselves in life.